Hi, my name is Palela. I'm a senior at UMass Boston. My major is business management with a double concentration on marketing and entrepreneurship. For my thesis, I looked at systemic racism and business career challenges that African Americans face in their careers. For background, if we look at how Americans feel about racism in our country today, these are some of the results. For example, 76% of African Americans said that they have experienced discrimination or have been treated unfairly because of their race or ethnicity, at least from time to time. And 67% of white Americans said that they have never experienced this. 60% of African Americans share that people acted like they thought they weren't smart, and only 26% of whites said that. When asked to react to the statement, our country hasn't gone far enough in giving blacks equal rights with white, 78% of African Americans agreed, and only 37% of white respondents agreed. So I applied that to the workforce and their careers, and I looked at the challenges that black professionals face in their careers. For primary data, I conducted a series of interviews and I interviewed 5 black professionals, 4 women, and 1 male. For secondary data, I looked at different case studies that were looking at microaggression in the workforce, what challenges black professionals were sharing that they were facing in their workforce. And I also looked at different articles that talked about microaggression in the workforce, challenges that black professionals face in their careers. The 3 themes that I looked at in my interviews were code switching, lack of support and representation, and having to work 2 times harder. And the reason why these 3 themes were the main focus is because in the research, these were some of the challenges that black professionals were sharing that they were experiencing. Code switching, having to work two times harder, and so on. After conducting the interviews and analyzing the data, they had supported some of the main themes that I had originally, and some new themes had arisen, and I'll be talking about those later. First, we have professionalism versus code switching. When does being professional cross the line of not being able to bring in your authentic self to work? Some of the stories that were shared included black women being told that their hair was too distracting for the workforce. Another black professional was told that she didn't come across as engaging enough because she wasn't smiling in a Zoom meeting, and she felt like they were policing how she was supposed to represent herself. What was also shared during the interviews is that when entering the roles, a lot of black professionals feel prejudged. They feel like their workers or colleagues had already made up a perception of who they are, and they're supposed to conform to that. The next theme is representation. A lot of black professionals felt like there was no support in the organization. There was no one they could, or higher up, that person that looked like them that they could go to that would help them navigate through some of these challenges. The next theme is what is happening inside these organizations. And a lot of black professionals feel like they are often ostracized in the organization, and they feel like their colleagues make it obvious that they're just not welcome in the environment. One professional shared an incident where an executive invited everyone out to lunch and purposely did not invite her, which was to make her feel like she was alone in the company. She shared that her treatment was so horrific that she had to file a complaint with the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, to get some help and report what she was going through in the organization. Another thing that happened in these companies is salary discrimination. One story that was shared was a young black salesman was working at this company. He started noticing his colleagues were getting promotions and he just wasn't. He brought it up to HR and he compared his work to his colleagues, and they discovered that he was being paid the lowest compared to what his colleagues were being paid. So there was clearly some salary discrimination in his pay. A lot of the interviewees shared that they had to deal with verbally abusive managers, and It was devastating to their mental health, which we will talk about later on. One of the interviewers was a professor at a university, and he talked about the difficulties of black professors to get tenure at these universities. Some other themes included a clear difference in experience between black women and black men in these organizations, and we see this in their salaries. One story that was shared during the interviews was when a black woman went in for an interview about her salary and promotion in the company she was working for, and there was also two other black male employees who went in after the interview. They started discussing about their salaries and what they were offered, and she discovered that she was offered the lowest amount of money compared to her two male white black colleagues. She brought it up to HR, and they discovered that there was some discrepancies in her rating for paying and promotion. The person who had conducted the interviews was a white male who had multiple reports previously about his practices and his bias, which had caused her to get the lowest amount of money offered compared to her two other black colleagues. Another story was shared where a black woman, when she looked at the amount of money that her colleagues were making in the company compared to her, the black male were being offered more money than the black women in the company. So it's clear there's evidence of difference in salaries and different experiences for black women and black men. Another theme is lack of professional respect. A lot of these black professionals share that they don't feel that their voice was heard in the company. They were constantly being overlooked and they weren't being taken seriously. A lot of the times when there's information that needed to be passed down, their white colleagues just wouldn't listen to them because they felt like someone who looked like them shouldn't be in the position that they're in. So there was a lot of jealousies, and which caused a lot of problems in the organization. One employee shared that she was asked to get her colleagues coffee, which was disrespectful. Last theme that was present in the interviews was mental health. So after dealing with toxic environment, lack of professional respect, lack of support and representation, all of this has a big impact on the mental health of these professionals. They expressed in a lot of the roles they would be given work that wasn't part of the description, making them work harder than others. They expressed not feeling adequate, constantly questioning themselves and their self-worth, questioning whether they were good enough in their job. One shared that the disrespect that she had to endure from her white executive was so severe, and the way that she would be belittled was just detrimental to her mental health, and it made her self-conscious about her work and question whether or not she was good enough. Other black professionals shared their experience of feeling drained and overwhelmed because, again, there's no support. They don't have anybody to go to talk about these challenges. Plus, dealing with verbally abusive managers and the lack of professional respect, it's all took a toll on their mental health, and it was draining and overwhelming. In conclusion, the themes that were present in the interviews and the data were, again, code switching versus professionalism. When does being and bringing your authentic self to the workforce crosses a line of not being professional? Again, black women being told that their hair is too distracting or it's not appropriate for the workforce. The next theme was lack of professional respect, toxic work environment, so dealing with verbally abusive managers, not being taken seriously, feeling ostracized, lack of support and representation, and a clear difference in experience between black men and black women. So these were all the themes that were present in the interviews and in the data. Through the data that I collected from the interviews and looking at other reports, these are some of the changes that black professionals want to see in the future in the workforce. The first one is that diversity and inclusion is not a trend. Black professionals do not want to be hired to fill a quota. When these companies hire these professionals, they need to make sure that the workplace is welcoming, that they are supported, and that these black professionals are safe from feeling ostracized and microaggression. And they can only do that by making diversity and inclusion a center mission at the organization. The next step is professional development programs that better support Black professionals and help them navigate through some of the challenges they have to face so that they don't have to do it alone. The next one, examine policies for fairness. Are these rules, norms of in policies fair for everybody? So a black woman being told that her hair is distracting and is not appropriate for the workforce, does that rule apply to a white woman who works in an organization? Again, are these rules and policies fair for everyone? And lastly, accountability programs. These organizations need to make sure that when Black professionals share their stories and their voices, that they are heard and that the people in the organization are held accountable for creating a toxic environment and creating a space where Black professionals are not feeling heard and are not feeling welcome.